Taylor Schilling joins me in Studio Q. Hello to you.
Hello.
Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So what's it like to be on in the middle of the madness of a film festival as someone that people recognize now?
Isn't that an interesting question? I mean, that feels like that's been a very recent development in my life.
That's what I'm
People-
asking.
Yeah, good question.
Thank you, Taylor.
I, I'm really excited about the movie, and I'm also I'm excited that this show that we're having it feels really special, and we're having such a good time making. People are responding to so much. I think that's sort of, it feels like the stars aligning a little bit when a piece that, you feel so passionately about and feels like creatively you're firing on all cylinders, and just finding that material, period, in general. And then people actually responding to it on this scale that seems sort of magical. And I'm so happy to be experiencing it right now.
Do you carry yourself differently as a TV/movie star?
No.
Do you think? Or, I mean, do you have to?
I mean, I don't know. That's a really interesting question, because the thing is that, at least like we were talking about earlier, where I live in New York, I mean, my life has not changed that much. People don't, like in my coffee shop, in my, my daily, really boring life, it's very much the same. Nothing has changed. And so...
They just gossip after you leave.
Probably.
Can't believe she ordered that.
Right. Oh my God. Really. But it is actually interesting, because it's like, in certain circumstances, there is much more attention, and then in others, if I don't seek that out, it's really not different.
It's a really interesting film that you're part of, Stay, that you star in. You're in most of the film. It's about a woman's internal emotional journey to reckon with her familial past. It occurs to me we live in flashy, big impact times when it comes to feature films. Mm-hmm. What did you like about taking a role like this on?
Well, I was just, when the script came into my life, I was just coming off the press tour for The Lucky One, and I really was interested in finding a character-driven piece, and something that was, a passion project for someone, something that was really just about telling a story. And this kind of fit the bill. I was really interested in Abby. I'm really curious about those moments in life where life happens in such a way that you have to confront yourself. You can't do things the way you've been doing them before. Something has to change. And, certainly getting pregnant is one of those moments in life. But I think that it's something that everybody can relate to. It comes in different guises for different people. But that notion of, wow, the way things were, I can't keep pushing anything under the rug.
I want to get to some of those issues, but when you're confronting yourself, as you say, as the character, as Abby in this film, the way that plays out in real life is, sitting on the couch thinking, or writing in your journal, or looking out the window, which is exactly what happens in this film. I mean, it's a quiet, contemplative film at times. Is it a challenge to play a character whose main role in this film is internal discoveries and realizations?
Well, I think it's certainly something very different. It's something that I have not done before, and it's oftentimes theatrically those struggles are externalized for the sake of a story, and this film doesn't do that as much. I mean, that quiet thoughtfulness that you talk about is, it's a different route, and it's a world you sort of have to buy into. It requires you to sort of surrender and enter into this gentle world that moves at a different pace. How
do you prepare yourself for it? Is it a different regimen from playing something that's more animated?
I think that it requires getting to know that world, I think that that's where the director, Vibka, came in. She she had a really specific aesthetic in mind, and it was interesting to see how I could match my insides up with what she wanted to see externally, which was a lot of stillness, and there isn't even a lot of dialogue at times to process what's going on. So it sort of was like an interesting acting exercise in like who is this girl that is dealing with issues that I can relate to and aren't dissimilar from even Piper and from Orange, but she does it in a very internal way. She does it in a very she goes inside.
The story centers on this, and by the way, it's a Canadian-Irish co-production. This film, Stay, from Montreal-based director you mentioned her, Wiebke von Karelsfeld. Are films like this in short supply? When you say you're looking for something like this, is it hard to find a film like this to do for you?
For me, right. I think, well, at the time, and also, I mean, it's like, I think at different points in your career as an actor, obviously,
Right.
you have
got
more
this
access.
gig before the Netflix show.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
This was what was available to me before Orange, so like, the hope is that as I continue to explore and my people see my work more, and as I'm able to do more is hopefully available to me.
Right.
But it's that interesting dance as an actor that like you want to find what speaks to you, but also what's available to you. It's not like it's something where you're
right.
and that, I mean, that's just the truth. That's just the truth of how it kind of how it happens. And I do think what isn't always easy to find is women that are kind of in the seat of their own experience, that are taking a journey that is not dependent or reliant on their relationship to a man or their relationship to as a caretaker or as a lover or something, and that autonomous journey, I think, is something that's very intriguing to me, and something that I think is also honest. I think that every woman has to do that. You have those parts of yourself that aren't simply in relation to the outside world. Those parts of yourself that you have to wake up with yourself and go to bed with yourself every day. And who is that person?
Let me ask you about some of the specifics then. In this film, you mentioned your character Abby and some of the issues. The story centers on ostensibly this idyllic relationship between Abby and Dermot, played by Aidan Quinn, that's suddenly jolted by the news of this unplanned pregnancy. Can you describe their respective reactions?
Well, I think that, there are two people that have sort of come together, and they're kind of together in their aloneness. They're two people who are isolated and feel other than in their own lives, and have that's kind of their connection. So I think that, having a history of running from things rather than actually confronting them, that's what they'll bring to the table when thinking about a baby, thinking about a child. And I think that
you can't run from it.
You can't run from it. And I think that Abby certainly can't run from it. I mean, it's a part of her. So she's forced to look at herself in a new way. And I think that, Dermot runs from it. And they both have to take like their own respective journeys to coming back to center. They have to go out again and sort of for the first time in their lives see and take responsibility.
Taylor, you said a couple of minutes ago, there's issues in the film that you can relate to personally. What comes to mind when you say that?
Well, I think I think the idea of there being, who are you? That idea of like being in your 20s, and there are moments of kind of who do you want to be? Who are you in relationship to your past? What parts do you want to bring with you? What parts do you kind of want to like shove into a drawer and not experience again? when and how those need to be unpacked. Who are you in relationship to the outside world? Are your decisions based on the version of yourself you think the world will accept and appreciate, or are your decisions based on who you are?
When was the last time you were plagued with those kind of questions?
This
All
morning.
the time.
Yeah.
So how do you answer that question?
I think that it's
a profound one. How do you, who are you in terms of the person you put out to the world versus the person who was in the hotel room this morning when you felt it?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's a really interesting question of I think there's risk and vulnerability involved in choosing to be yourself, whatever that is, whatever that feels, whatever feels real to you or honest in that day, in that moment, as opposed to, like I was saying, like a version of yourself. And that often requires a lot of not caring what other people think, I think, which is a weird place to live, especially in this
How
industry.
are you on the question of caring what people think?
I think it's a practice not to. And I think that sometimes that's what I'm curious about as an actor. And those are the people that I respond to, and those are the stories where when I'll leave a theater and feel less when I see my own humanness reflected back to me, it's like then I feel less alone in the world. But generally, those parts that are really compelling for me to watch are the parts that you don't really want to see on a daily basis. It's the vulnerability and awkwardness and fear and all those things that we all share but don't necessarily talk about. And that's what I'm really curious about.
What about even more superficial?
Mm-hmm.
What about, caring about whether people like you or like the Orange is the New Black or like this film?
That's the whole thing. I mean, I don't think that's superficial. That's the whole deal. It's like saying, like, do you want to barter in having people like you, whatever that means, or do you want to barter in sort of, trying to tell the truth?
So how do you feel if you overhear somebody going, Orange is the New Black, I just don't get it.
Yeah.
The lead sucks.
Yeah. That's like, that's really hard. And so it's like, what do you want to like, and I think, I don't hear that very often. I haven't heard that, and I do my best to not hear that. Right. But I think that
I'm not suggesting it's getting said. I'm wondering hypothetically
what would I do?
What would happen?
Yeah, I mean, and I guess
if you know how to shut that off, or if you take it in, or you learn from it, or you get upset, or what happens?
I guess I think it's very human to get upset. I think ideally the thing would be to be working on something where, I'm feeling so connected to it, or so passionate about it, or so excited about a project that really, regardless of how other people interact with it, I still feel excited about it. It's just about exploring.
I want to ask you a little bit more about you and Orange is the New Black, but one more issue related to the film that I thought was interesting. Abby's reaction to this disparateness in terms of the way that her and her character, her paramour Dermot, deal with the pregnancy is to return home to Montreal. She's and to see her alcoholic father and sort out her feelings about her long lost mother.
Yeah.
So the movie examines how our relationships with our parents, however troubled, are the kind of bonds that are not easily denied. They continue to exist. Is that fair to say? And is that something you relate to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that those relationships are defining, and they're the foundation of who we are as people. And if they go sort of unexamined, then I think they can kind of create havoc if you're unaware of them.
Are you close with your parents growing up?
Yeah, I had a nice relationship with my parents.
And were they supportive of the acting?
Were they supportive? It's really funny. I think the acting really like took hold. It sort of like grabbed me and did not let go, or at least, I was sort of out of the house by the time I really was going and not looking back. So
well, the story is that you got hooked on acting in a middle school production of Fiddler on the Roof,
And
which
you-
I love.
And
Is
yeah.
that true?
I mean, and that is the truth.
Well, what was it about Fiddler on the Roof?
To what the heck was it? I mean, that's so, it's so goofy. But I remember auditioning for that play, and my mother really encouraged me to audition, blah, 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 you know, from just like, go, 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 go. And because every kid got into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, these like, these
Being the strict Jew that you are.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I mean, like this like shiksa with like, you know.
Right, yeah.
Ay. So, it's like there are 45 kids kind of like singing on the stage, but I remember auditioning for it in on a table in a cafeteria, and I thought, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And I remember walking home from middle school back home, and I thought, oh, that's what I'm going to do.
Did you get the role?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I got the part. And I loved it. I had a great time, and it was really fun. It was the first time in my life that people were like, oh, wow. I was like, oh, this feels really good. It didn't then become some like big thing. I didn't obsessively do plays. My teenage years sort of took over in their own way, but I just sort of knew.
You didn't do a touring production.
I didn't do it. I
Roof.
didn't go on tour. We did not take that production on tour. Ay. But I sort of just knew. So when it came time for me to go to college, there was really no question. It was like, oh yeah, that's.
But
what
I
I'll
love
do.
this story and then you're working as a nanny in NYC when you get your first break on TV.
Oh yeah, hardcore nannying, like pounding the pavement, going to auditions.
And that was that was Mercy.
Yeah.
And life changes overnight to a certain extent.
I mean, it changed to the extent that I could pay my rent and buy groceries without having to, you know, watch little people in the playground. But you know, I don't know how much it, you know, my experience of it changed. I mean, there's so much happened in that year when I dropped out of school and I did a play and then I started nannying. It was a big life-changing year across the board. So, yeah, starting to do Mercy was
This
big.
is about 5 or 6 years ago, right?
Yeah, it was in 2009.
2000, well, not even.
Yeah.
4 years ago. And now, fast forward to today, and you're the star of Orange is the New Black. By the way, I'm a huge fan of this show.
Thank you.
It's so many things, this series. It's so many good things, and a lot of critics obviously have called it one of the best shows ever, or the best shows around.
Wow.
How does it feel to be at the center of that? Has your life changed? I mean, I know you said you're still the same kid in New York and you go to the coffee shop, but I mean, you must be aware of the broader phenomenon.
I think that I mean, you know, like over the past 4 years since I've done Mercy, there's been sort of like when I did Mercy, I did not feel an impact. You know, today I feel an impact walking down the street. You know, people are excited, you know, and I can feel that. So yes, so I would say that now I could say that, you know, it's been 4 years since I left school and I do feel like my life has changed. You know, it's really cool to hear that stuff. We're so in the middle of it. We're so in the thick of making the thing, you know, that it's, which I think is great. There hasn't been as much time to sort of get into the like
click champagne
woo-woo.
glasses. And
yeah,
go,
exactly.
We're the best ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We
better
don't,
than The Sopranos.
It's hard to do that
You
when
play
you're like
Piper Chapman, a woman behind
Yes.
bars. How do you prepare for a role like that? How did you prepare?
Well, when I first got the script, I really just stuck to the reference points that Piper Kerman had when she entered prison. So she'd, you know, just read up a little bit on what it was like to go to prison, but she'd never been in a facility, and she, you know, was just in a relationship with her husband or her fiance at the time, and trying to make that work, trying to see if that was real or not. So that's sort of where I started.
Because when she first went in there, she didn't have an experience being behind bars. So
Exactly.
So you don't need the experience to start playing that character.
And then after that, before season 2, Piper, actually, the real Piper, and I went to visit Rikers together to the women's prison camp in Rikers. And I also went with her to visit some transitional housing facilities for women moving from incarceration back to civilian life. That is through the Women's Prison Association that does really amazing work for women coming out of jail or prison.
I'm curious if you've heard from people, from women behind bars, from women in prison about the show.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I haven't really. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I will. I haven't really opened all of the things that I have to open, so they're probably in there somewhere.
I haven't checked your email since 2009. The show is loosely based on the memoir of Piper Kerman, as you say, and your character is the fictional version, Piper Chapman. So Piper Kerman was on our show this summer, and I want to play you something she said.
Oh, wow, this is exciting.
They've adapted the characters, they've invented entirely new storylines, and entirely new characters in some cases. But they've really stayed very, very true to the themes of the book. The questions of, family and lovers and friends and what role do those folks play in our lives. The questions of guilt and shame, the friendship and empathy, substance abuse and mental illness are really substantive, important themes that are right front and center in the show. And so that makes me very, very happy.
That's Piper Kerman talking about the show and about you, Orange is the New Black. What does it mean to have her stamp of approval?
Oh, it means everything. I really value her journey as a human being on the planet. I think she's, I just value her a lot, and I value the work that she's doing now, and it means a lot to hear her say those things.
How often do you still consult with her?
Oh yeah,
on the character. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we talk. She was just on set on Monday. She, then we'll exchange emails afterwards. And it's been really a treat to get to know her, and for all of us, sort of as we spend more time together, we get to know each other.
One of the things we've talked about with the producers on the show that it's so different about Orange is the New Black. One of the remarkable things about it is the diversity of the inmates and seeing their stories on the screen. The prisoners are Latina, African American, transgendered, young, old, rich, poor. Mm-hmm. What does it feel like to be part of something like that?
I mean, it feels really exciting. It feels really exciting. I think that we're taking all of these different women, all of these different people that for a large part of the population, I think that you can look at some of these women that you're seeing on the show and say, they're separate from me. I don't have anything in common with them. And then the beauty of the writing is that as we travel quite intimately into their lives, there are a lot of universal themes that are uncovered. And I think that there's this sense of, oh, I see myself in you. I can relate to that. And there's a way in. And I think that
and why don't I see more of you?
Right, exactly.
On TV.
And why don't I see what is this idea that we have? What is this sort of we're kind of collective spell we're under, that there's one version of a woman that is appropriate or real or right in popular culture. There's sort of this, we've all kind of drank the Kool-Aid about what we expect to see on screen, what is a woman. And this show kind of says, wait a second. Everybody walks down the street. Everybody knows what we're seeing on TV is not reality. So let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room, which I think is very cool.
Jenji Cohen, your showrunner, called your character Piper a gateway drug. Saying, I don't think I could have sold a show about Black and Latina and old women in prison. Mm-hmm. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that I think that that's incredibly valid. I think that that's true, and I think that that's kind of a travesty. And I think that is where we are right now. That you need the kind of a front woman of a white lady that people think that they can kind of relate to be able to tell the stories of a more diverse population. And I think that that's something that
it's true for me. I relate to the white woman more so than the brown sisters.
So Piper was your gateway drug as well. And I think that's I feel like even within Piper herself, Genji's kind of challenged the idea of what it means to be to be a white blonde lady. That there are a lot, that the onion gets peeled, the layers get peeled back on that, and she's not.
Right.
She's a very ambiguous character. She's not a. She's by no means like the hero of the story, and I think that also is so refreshing and so exciting that there's no box. Nobody fits into a mold.
It's such a pleasure to have you here. We started by talking about your taking a film like Stay before Orange is the New Black and the limited options that you had, but wanting to do a film like that and getting it. Do you have a sense of what you want to do? I mean, beyond continuing this fabulous Netflix series and your next project, something that you're really aching to do?
I mean, what moves me more than anything is working with people that are inspiring and people that are passionate, and I really hope to find a character to work on with a really wonderful director, and I'll follow that to the ends of the earth, to whatever the story is or whatever the script is.
You kind of already have that.
Yeah, I think that there's more to be explored, especially in film. There's a lot of directors I'd love to work with.
Congrats.
Thank you.
On the great year.
Thank
couple
you.
Of years you're having.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for doing this.
It really was a pleasure to be here and chat.